Welcome to the Fucked Up Guides Fucked Up podcast, where we tackle a series of real life topics with humor, honesty, a sprinkle of fucks, and a shit ton of metaphors. I'm your host, and today we're finally wrapping up our three-part series on boundaries. Yep, that's right. I hope that these episodes have given you information, they've given you tips, and have empowered you to set those boundaries. So, before we even start, you may be wondering, why the fucked up podcast? Why the fucked up guide? And what the fuck is going on here? Well, the fucked up guide started 6 months ago as a way to send a message to our followers on social media that they matter. We wanted to put that positive shit out into the world. That with self love and self worth, they can do anything, meaning you can do anything. If you truly let go of the stigma, the ego, and understand that this whole fuckery that we call life is a human experience. If you're up for the adventure, come with me on a journey of self-acceptance, realization, and empowerment in this very series. Now, again, I got to give you all these disclosures before we even start on the topic. I want to advise you all, we are not medical professionals by any stretch of the imagination. If you feel you need professional help or medical attention, please seek a professional. Do not take us as medical advice. We have learned and continue to learn our lessons from the school of life. And we're here to articulate the things that we have learned in this life. That means the good, the bad, the ugly, and the indifferent. We're here to entertain, motivate, and get you to think a little. Now that we've got all that shit out of the way, we can finally wrap up episode 3. So, to give you a brief synopsis of what we were talking about in episode 2, we discussed the importance of clear communication, having difficult conversations with friends and loved ones, gave you an overview of what toxicity was and what it looked like, and how it affects healthy relationships and healthy boundaries in a relationship. And most important of all, the importance and the urgency of self-care during this journey. We then recap that boundaries in relationships are you basically saying, this is where I stand, and I value your space. Clear and effective communication is critical. When expressing your needs, you need to be the calmest person in the room because calmness and empathy go a long way. Toxic behavior can exhibit itself as manipulation, disrespect, constant negativity, and boundary violations. And self-care is a top priority during times like these. Now, as we wrap up the topic of boundaries, we're going to be discussing ways to navigate and show off your newly set limits to the rest of the world. How to manage other people's expectations versus your own needs and values, because let's be real with each other. Those of us, such as myself and probably some of you out in the audience, can live without expectations. You wake up every morning and you're not expecting anything. You're pretty much going with the flow. The outside world, though, has plenty of fucking expectations for us. So how do we navigate that? It is really fucking important, though, that you stay true to your values, your belief system, and your needs. And in today's episode, we will also discuss familial dynamics, workplace situations, the importance of boundaries in friendships, and all the boundaries required for romantic relationships. So I think I want to start with familial or family dynamics. So we're going to dive right into the intricate world of fucking family dynamics. Family relationships are unique in their closeness and intimacy, but they also come with challenges regarding boundaries and avoiding boundary violation. Particularly within child and parent relationships, for example, how do you toe the fine line between balancing nurturing and care versus fostering their independence? And I want to stop here and pause because we're going to go down a certain rabbit hole, but I want to give you something first. I want to be the first one to tell you today that you should never ever feel guilty of prioritizing your time for yourself. I am a mom. myself, and I have learned in the last 5 years of being a mom that I am no good to my child if I'm not good to myself. Therefore, there I have to practice self-care. I have to prioritize my time, obviously with caring and nurturing and having time for my child as well. This right here, when these children, and this has happened with my own child, when they start to see that you are prioritizing yourself, you're respecting yourself, this is going to build independence in them. And we also set the example for them to learn to respect themselves, to communicate their feelings and their opinions effectively. And also, it empowers them. And I've seen it with my own child. Don't ever feel guilty about that. But back to the topic at hand. So let's talk about sibling dynamics as well. We're going to touch upon that. That's another one that we don't often talk about, and that can range from close camaraderie to rivalry. And affecting how boundaries are set up and respected within the family unit is crucial. If you are dealing, and I'm seeing this a lot on social media, again, going back to these terms like we talked about in episode 2, when you've been raised with narcissistic parents, or perhaps there's dysfunctionality within the family unit, you will see the sibling rivalry even be connected within the parent level, meaning your own parents are basically pinning you against each other. And we're not going to talk about all of that today, but we will be doing the next series of episodes based on situations. So we will be talking about the family dynamic, going much deeper into it. But let's get to boundaries and setting them up. One of the common challenges in family setting is navigating the blurred lines between our own individuality, familial expectations, meaning what goes on within our family nucleus, and our generational cultural belief systems. Parents struggle or may struggle with letting go as children get older, and children may struggle to assert their independence without feeling guilty. Going back to sibling dynamics, sibling conflicts can also arise when boundaries are crossed or misunderstood. These are all real struggles that have cycled through generations repeatedly. So, what can we do in certain situations, or what can we do in general? And in the next episode, when we tackle the next time we do tackle family dynamic, we will definitely discuss much more in detail what some of these family dynamics look like, what these boundaries may look like, and what happens in terms of, again, individuality, family dynamic, and expectation, as well as generational cycles. So the first tip that I can give you in terms of navigating family boundaries is you need to respect individual needs. So you need to recognize and respect each family member's need for personal space, autonomy, and emotional support. We also need to respect everyone's individuality. That is fundamental. While we may share the same blood, we are all very different. Our personalities are completely different, and our needs and our likes can be very different. And with mutual respect, empathy, and patience, you can definitely have a beautiful relationship. Because here's the thing, we cannot just bully our way with our own boundaries, but we need to allow each family member to evolve in their space and at their own pace. Your job is to control how you react. How much energy and effort are you willing to invest in this? And practicing self-respect along with mutual respect is essential in order for us to really enjoy our individuality as well as partaking with our loved ones. The next tip I want to give you is practicing empathy. Try to understand and empathize with family members' perspectives, even when disagreements arise. I want to note here, and again, another pin that I want to throw into this is another potential rabbit hole, but I want to make sure that we talk about this, is acceptance and perception. Acceptance and perspective. Respecting each other's space, your individuality, your autonomy, and your emotional support. This is the key to acceptance. You don't need to understand it. You don't need to like it. But if you truly love someone and you truly care about them, and you yourself are in that individual healthy place, you accept it. Because guess what? It is what it is. Okay? So that is acceptance. That version of mutual respect, accepting the personal space, the individuality, and respecting it, that comes with acceptance. When it comes to empathy, this is where we learn perspective and understand every single point of view. At times, it may even change your own perspective. But the key here is objectivity to adhering and respecting boundaries in those familiar relationships. Understand where everyone is coming from, even when, again, any situation turns into a shit show. Families can cultivate more robust, respectful relationships by addressing these challenges and implementing healthy boundary setting while honoring each member's individuality. Okay? Now that I've given you the prelim for family dynamics, let's move over to friendships. How do we uphold our boundaries with our friends in the family the family that we choose? Remember, boundaries are an act of love, right? Let's start there. As mentioned in episode 1, boundaries are like invisible lines that define where you end and another begins. In friendships, this means clear boundaries contribute to mutual respect and understanding. This gives us the foundation for how friends interact, communicate, and support each other while maintaining individual identities and needs. This is where you both have asked yourself those introspection questions and set the course for an incredible friendship. And again, who remembers our introspection questions? I can say it good. I can say it right this week. I'm glad. Yes, I was going to say I can say it good because English. Let's talk about repeat our introspection questions. What am I comfortable with? What am I not comfortable with? What am I willing to tolerate? What am I not willing to tolerate? How much energy and effort do I have to give to others? Or better yet, do I want to give to others? And how much energy and effort do I need to keep for myself? With friendships, they can have their fair share of a shit show as well. Issues such as overstepping personal space, mismatched expectations, and an unequal give and take, no matter the longevity of the friendship. Remember, we all change, we all evolve, we all grow. People are going to fall away, new people are going to come in, but no matter the longevity of that relationship and that friendship, these things can arise. It's essential to address these issues with empathy and openness. Setting clear expectations, practice active listening, and offering constructive feedback can help navigate and resolve boundary-related conflicts. Communication is the cornerstone of a healthy friendship. Actually, communication is a cornerstone of everything. Honest and transparent conversations about needs, preferences, and boundaries can strengthen a friendship bond. Expressing yourself clearly and respectfully is essential, while being receptive to your friend's perspective and boundary. Trust and understanding grows when friends feel effectively heard. Now, if you still need to figure it out, or if I need to tell you the obvious, clear and effective communication is key to all relationships. All relationships. The workplace is no different. Communication, flexibility, and respect are required to navigate these corporate waters. Because here's the thing, and as someone who was in corporate for about 20 years, I can tell you that the lines get blurred. I am the first one to tell you, if I haven't been the first one to tell you, these lines get really blurred. And the reason they do is because we spend more time with our colleagues than we do with our family. And when COVID hit in 2020 and we were all on lockdown, for those of us that were work from home and essential workers, we basically worked. Many of us were still trying to navigate, and navigate companies were navigating as a whole, how to work in an environment where you are home, you are taking care of your family, perhaps you're losing family members. And it was a very, very tough time. And the curtain between separating church and state was no longer. But using terms such as we're a family, and for those of you who have worked with me in the past, I was the first person to tell you, hey, we're a family. Well, my loves, that's not the case. We know that. You probably already know that. When the time comes at the end of the day, you're coming in to do a purpose, you're coming in to do a function, and you're getting paid for said function. The other one I'm going to give you, which I actually got off of TikTok, and I will say it resonated with me tremendously, is your colleagues are not your friends. You have friendly colleagues, and you should be friendly yourself, but they're not your friends. You can build a friendship outside of the norm, of the confines of your job, but understand that when shit hits the fan, motherfucker, it's every fucking man for themselves. Believe that. When it comes to our pockets, and if somebody's going to rummage through our pockets, or there's an organizational change, or there's a reorg, or whatever you want to call it, it's every man for himself. And we are going to go, I'm actually in the process now of creating a whole series of episodes when it comes to workplace environments, including workforce toxicity, dysfunctional environments, as well as really good environments to work and flourish in. I have to say, I've been really blessed with having had a beautiful career. And will say I had a wonderful array of mentors. I've also had my fair share of shit bosses. So there you go. So anyway, the workplace. Boundary challenges can arise with supervisors, colleagues, and clients. Issues such as unclear expectations, excessive workload, and inappropriate behavior can impact job performance and team morale. Recognizing and addressing these challenges is vital for a harmonious work environment. Ask yourself, and this is where we toe the fine line, because there's a difference between workplace challenges, seasonality of volume, versus a toxic work environment. Those are two very distinct things, but they fall within a very fine line. And you need to ask yourself, are these legit workplace questions, or are these legit workplace challenges, or is this a toxic work environment? And if the answer is you are in a toxic work environment, my advice to you is find everything possible to get out. Obviously, do not do something that's going to be detrimental to your finances or detrimental to your family, but I would find every which way to get out, because these dynamics don't go away. 9 times out of 10, if you're working in a toxic work environment, that's being fostered away from the top. It's being fostered by leadership. So if you feel that that is where you are, don't walk, run. Start getting that resume together and start interviewing, because it doesn't, unless there's a shakeup all the way from the top, most of the time, that type of environment of unbalance in workload, unbalance within team resources, short-staffed, and the ongoing working of hours, that won't go away. So that is my quick tip, my preliminary quick tip for toxic work environments. Just leave. Now, here are some tips for establishing clear boundaries at work. If you are in an environment that you are satisfied, content in. So the first one I want to say is clearly define roles and responsibilities. Establish clear expectations regarding role, task, and responsibilities to avoid misunderstanding. This one is a slippery slope because we want to be team players and we want to help out, but we also don't want to get piled on. So it is really important for you to have your job description with you. If something's been updated on your job description, you have every single right to ask HR or ask your supervisor for an updated job description. The other thing I would say is these conversations of establishing clear expectations, those need to get hashed away. I would say your last interview before the job offer. So in your final interview, right after, because normally your final interview is basically wrapping things up with whatever boss's boss or higher up. And again, I'm talking about the corporate world. I'm not really talking about blue collar because that's not my world. My world was marketing, finance, and project management and coaching. So when we talk about that, you're going to want to do this with HR after your final interview when you're about to get your job offer. And then I would also continue the conversation with your manager and also your HR person during your mid-level reviews and during your end-of-year reviews. Those are the perfect time to talk about what you've been doing, what are your responsibilities now, what are you evolving to, and where are you going? The other tip I want to give you is communicate effectively. Open and on, again, it's all about fucking communication. Open your mouth. Open and honest communication is essential for setting and maintaining boundaries. Express your needs and your concerns respectfully. Prioritize your self-care. And this one's another one that you need to set that precedence from the first day you walk in through the door. Don't worry if people are going to talk shit about you. They're going to talk shit about you regardless. That's none of your business. As I've talked in the last 2 episodes, your job is how you react. What people think about you and what they're going to say about you behind your back is completely fucking irrelevant. Set the boundaries around your work hours, breaks, and personal time. Your boss is not going to give a shit about your burnout. They'll push you right out. They'll bring somebody who's fresh to come in. We are all expendable. So, maintain that work-life balance while practicing temperance. Also keep in mind, if you're finding yourself where you know you're at a job where there's seasonality in terms of volume, in terms of the productivity needed, flexibility is key here. But also maintain your ground that if you're willing, and that's if you're willing to be that team player and help out and put in those extra hours, as soon as that seasonality is done, you make sure that you are grounded enough and you're assertive enough to know and to say, hey, these are my work hours again. This is my personal time. And respect also each other's boundaries. Be mindful of colleagues' boundaries and preferences and avoid overstepping or making assumptions. Remember, what's the old saying? What do you do when you assume? You make an ass out of you and me. You're not the only one with clear boundaries. Everyone else around you, if they're in a good spot, do have those boundaries. So going out of the workplace and going into something a little bit more personal, a little bit more intimate, romantic relationships. See, those are, and we're only going to touch upon these because we can do an entire series on romantic relationships as well. And we will. You just have to keep following and sharing. Romantic relationships are rich with emotional, physical, and sexual dynamics, all of which intersect with boundaries. Navigating these complexities involves understanding each other's needs, preferences, and comfort levels. It's a really delicate balance that requires open communication and empathy. Trust and intimacy are foundational elements in romantic relationships. They significantly influence how boundaries are established and respected. And I find that with romantic relationships, there is such a complexity to it because now you're establishing not only boundaries within communication, you're establishing boundaries on intimacy. This is where love languages come in too, and you're establishing boundaries and your limits when it comes to sex. Because here's the thing, intimacy is not just sex. Intimacy encompasses all. And the more you continue with your partner, and the deeper and the richer the relationship is, and the relationship evolves to, the more this will transform. And as the years go by, for those who've been married for a hot minute, let's be real with each other. I said earlier, we all change. As we get older, we change, we evolve, we grow. That communication with your partner, setting those boundaries, will be ever changing, will be ever evolving. And you need to make sure that that's something that both of you are in agreement, are well aware. So, a strong sense of trust allows partners to communicate openly about their boundaries without fear of judgment or rejection. Emotional and physical intimacy fosters a deeper understanding of each other's boundaries and helps create a safe space for vulnerability. Again, listen, I'm going to repeat effective communication until the fucking cows come home, because this is what it's all about. Effective communication is critical in maintaining healthy boundaries. Fuck that. Not in just romantic, in all relationships. We just spoke about this. It involves expressing needs, desires, and boundaries clearly and respectfully. Particularly in romantic relationships, negotiation is crucial. The last thing you want to be is obtuse when it comes to a romantic relationship, because it ebbs and it flows. And there's got to be, you're not sacrificing, but there's got to be a level of compromise that honor both partners' boundaries while nurturing the relationship growth and the intimacy. Because as your relationship deepens, the more intimate you'll become. And that at that point is all about vulnerability, trust, mutual respect, self-respect, all of the stuff that we've talked about in the last 2 episodes. Okay? So with that, let's recap what we covered today. Effective communication is crucial to all relationships that impact your life. Acceptance and perspective are equal to respect and empathy. In friendships, clear boundaries contribute to mutual respect and understanding. Clarity and flexibility are required when navigating boundaries and relationships in the workplace. Multifaceted communication is critical to romantic relationships. And always remember, my loves, you are in control. You must set an example on how you want to be treated. And don't ever settle for less. This journey we're all on is not about being selfish. It's about being self-aware and practicing self-love. Because you are fucking enough. You fucking matter. And you are fucking worth it. And that's all for today's episode of the Fucked Up Podcast. Join us next time when we attack the topic of respect, obviously with humor, honesty, a sprinkle of fucks, and a shit ton of metaphors. If you enjoyed this content, follow us at the Fucked Up Guide on TikTok and Instagram. And follow the Fucked Up Podcast wherever you'd like. We are now officially on Spotify. We're on Apple Podcasts, Audible, Amazon Music. I can't fucking believe this shit. iHeartRadio, Patreon, Pandora. Take your pick. Follow us. I hope you enjoyed this. Until then, take care of yourself and keep making those boundaries like the fucking kings and queens that you are. Because guess what? If no one's told you today, I'm going to tell you. You fucking matter. Thanks for sticking around.